Hi, and welcome to Tara's Music Minute, where I review albums, usually classic rock, a bit of psychedelic music, and everything that cats enjoy.
Sorry about that. Welcome back to Murdock's Music Minutes, the tiny obscure channel where I indeed present album reviews or rank discographies. Sometimes I also do other more obscure stuff, all related to mostly popular music and sometimes also a little bit of classical music, but nobody's watching that. Today, a topic we all probably went through: adolescence. Adolescence in at least the Western Hemisphere, ever since at least the 1950s, when rock and roll arrived on the scene, has been the main driving force for pop and also later on rock music. Adolescence in the Western Hemisphere probably is also experienced more or less the same by each generation. It's about finding out who you are, gaining interest from the other sex or maybe the same sex, and just experiencing or seemingly experiencing what it is to be a grown up without really being a grown up. So, looking at all the fun aspects, parties and bars and clubs, and going out. For me, one such bar is a small place in Vienna where I went for the first time as a student. An acquaintance of mine actually brought me there one cold winter evening for the first time. I ended washed up there, still sometimes doing a bit of a DJ set in that very small bar. I'm just getting too old for this shit. I'm not even the oldest DJ there. We used to have a legendary DJ, at least for the people who frequently attended this bar. They knew him very, very well and appreciated his sometimes not so typical bar DJ sets. I mean, usually you would expect to hear some classic rock or maybe some the latest indie stuff, the new hot indie stuff, and some maybe more commercial party bangers. But he was very much into singer-songwriter, bit of Britpop, and also his punk and power pop stuff. Unfortunately, some years ago, we lost him at a way too early age. And that actually brings me to his record collection, because the owner of that bar, um, after this DJ's passing, asked all the DJs from the bar if they were interested in having a look at all the records that he left us. And I remember going to that very place in one of the back rooms, in one of the cellar rooms, this huge record collection was kept. It was what he left us DJs, left the bar, and it felt very strange going through the records. It felt like a tribute, and somehow it felt like taking things away from a dead person, basically. But I hope he would have been happy knowing that most of his records went into the hands of several DJs and DJs who really appreciate that stuff. And one of the records that I picked up is this one. Today's album review contains Northern Ireland's youthful answer to troublesome times, a lot of adolescence issues, and John Peel's favorite song of all times, or does it? You first want to know more about the Undertones? Well, here's a bit of band info for you. Derry in the mid 70s. Life is characterized by conflict between Catholics and Protestants, known as the Troubles in Northern Ireland. But life also consists of other things for the local teenagers than family feuds, terrorist attacks, and military violence. Despite most entertainment centers being closed in the evenings for safety reasons. Fergal Sharkey, vocals, John O'Neill, rhythm guitar and vocals, Damien O'Neill, lead guitar and vocals, Michael Bradley, bass and vocals, and Billy Doherty, drums, get together to form a band. They were friends drawing inspiration from groups like the Beatles and the Small Faces, but transferring those influences into the popular punk sound of the times. By 1976, they had begun playing small gigs at schools and parish halls, mostly with a repertoire of cover versions. At one point, their drummer came up with the name The Undertones. When punk happened in the UK, it was a crucial influence on the band's direction. The Undertones now began to write their own punk songs with a strong leaning towards catchy pop hooks. In mid-1977, guitarist John O'Neill wrote the song Teenage Kicks, which should gain them success with their live audiences. The band began playing gigs outside of Derry more frequently now, and in 1978 recorded a 4-song EP with their own material in Belfast. Teenage Kicks, which was the title track, was heard by famous BBC DJ John Peel, who put it on heavy rotation, helping making it a hit. When the president of Sire Records heard Teenage Kicks on Peel's radio show, the Undertones were finally offered a record deal. Teenage Kicks was re-released as a standalone single, eventually making it to number 31 in the UK singles chart in late 1978. After their first UK tour as a support act, the Undertones recorded their self-titled debut album in the spring of 1979. This is the Undertones' debut album, self-titled debut album. We see the 5 lads sitting on, a fence, probably somewhere in Derry, in their hometown. Also at the back, it's all very casual, nonchalant, but somewhat cool, even though they really look like, boys from the province a little bit. This, by the way, is a German pressing from, I don't know exactly when this came out. I mean, the album originally was released in 1979. This is a German pressing released on Sire Records. I think it's Sire, or is it Sear? There's no barcode on the album, so it must be at least an old pressing, either from maybe 1979 or from the early 80s. And we start with Family Entertainment. A propelling guitar lick kicks off the party. Everybody in the band is sharp on point in this neat little pop-punk number about illicit things going on between family members, most likely siblings. What a nasty way to open this, on the outside, purely lightweight fun album. Got to take men in the family. Learn to take men in the family. Have to take men in the family. Want to take men in the family. Girls Don't Like It is an anthem of sexual frustration for punk fans. Sharkey really throws himself into the vocal performance, backed up by the energy of the band. Another corker of a track. Song number three, Male Model, is a fun shout along song about a young man very much into fashion. Like a lot of the tracks on this album, this is a quick, efficient explosion under 2 minutes. I Gotta absolutely anticipates 90s indie power pop and is also undeniably catchy.
Next time we'll have to do better. I gotta get up. I gotta get up. I gotta get up. Little Jamie hides in the front of the car.
Wrong Way is a typical adolescent story about feeling mistreated by a girl. This one maybe is a little bit rough cast as it clocks in at under 1.5 minutes, but even then, the Undertones throw in a nice little guitar hook line. Cut 6, Jump Boys, describes the feeling of male adolescence, being in your gang of friends, trying to be cool, getting into troubles, out on the town, getting into troubles because of girls. If it wasn't for the lyrics, this could even be an early number by The Jam. This is almost an epic at a length of 2 minutes and 40 seconds, and for the first time, the band doesn't play at breakneck speed. There's time for a break and a little guitar solo. A very solid track. Side 1 ends with the pure fun of Here Comes the Summer. It's got a programmatic title, a joyous chorus, a new wave organ, and youthful energy indeed make this the perfect song for summer on the beach in Northern Ireland.
Looking for the girls with the faces of tan. The land on the beach is all covered in sand. Stretching out the long legs, lying in the sun. Rain on the beautiful, they're having fun. Here comes the summer. Here comes the summer. Here comes the summer.
Jimmy's third on the next side is the happiest sounding song about rejection you could think of. Jimmy Jimmy, which follows, is one of the most concise tracks on the album. It's got an infectious melody, but it's actually a tragic story. But that notwithstanding, it's one of the catchiest tracks on here.
Jimmy, Jimmy. Jimmy, Jimmy. Oh, Jimmy, Jimmy. Poor little Jimmy will let go. Now little Jimmy's gone. He disappeared one day.
The next one, True Confessions, takes a bit of a left turn. This song originally appeared on the band's first EP and as the B-side to the Teenage Kicks single, but in a more conventional rock band version with a slightly disco-ish drum groove and relentless guitars. This new recorded album version focuses almost entirely on the toms in terms of the drums. There's also an effect on the drums and a bit of a synthesizer sound going on in the background, as well as effects on the vocals. The guitar is minimalist, and overall this recording has more of a new wave or post-punk sound and thus sticks out from the rest. What is more, this version is sung by the bass player Michael Bradley. It's a more mature sounding experimental song about deception. Really an interesting track.
Don't look so surprised. You've been telling me lies.
With She's a Runaround, we return to the happy power pop sound, a song about the feeling of not fitting in as a teenager or being generally misunderstood and wanting to escape. It's another really short, a bit jangly track. I Know a Girl again demonstrates the band's great skill in creating something instantly memorable with simple means. A great guitar lick and lyrics about infatuation that I guess have got universal appeal.
I know a girl. I know that she knows about me. She's not just a girl.
We are almost through, but even then, the undertones remain consistent in the hook line and catchy licks department. Listening in has got some nice little guitar work going on, and the album finishes with a tribute to the club that brought the band into the limelight, the deliberately muddy sounding lo-fi Casbah rock that sounds as if it was a snippet from a very crude, you know, badly recorded demo tape, or maybe this even was recorded live at a session or during a rehearsal at the Casbah Club. That's it. And yes, the famous Teenage Kicks was not part of the original UK release of this debut album. The album was re released a few months later with Teenage Kicks included, and it was also on the a little bit shorter, even more concise US version of this album, which also came with a different cover artwork, a more colorful cover artwork, maybe one that gained record buyers' attention more immediately, though I have to say I like this one a bit more. It has this slightly rough Northern Ireland feel for me. This first self-titled album by the Undertones received quite some praise from critics back in the day, even surprising the band. But, and in hindsight, that is quite unbelievable, it didn't chart, not even in the UK. But this album remains revered to this day, maybe even more nowadays than it was back then. It has been frequently called one of the best and first punk pop albums of all times, maybe together with the Buzzcocks. Arguably, if you want punk with a strong sense for pop hook lines, you can't do any better than the Buzzcocks or the Undertones. Uh, this appears frequently on lists of the best UK punk albums of all times, and it is also regarded one of the strongest debut albums ever. Now, I'm a middle aged bloke who shouldn't be listening to songs about adolescence or teenage years, so the question is, do I still get any kicks out of this? Yes. Yes, I unashamedly do. The sheer joy of playing their own songs and, that youthful energy that I have evoked again and again here in my review are simply infectious. The music is great fun. and the band, within this rather one-dimensional genre that they are playing, the band comes up with some really nice little ideas. All of the songs have got at least some catchy or memorable aspect, even if, as I've mentioned, some of the tracks are extremely brief and almost, casually thrown in there. So if you are a fan of punk pop, power pop, this is an essential album to listen to, or maybe to add to your collection. If this is not your style, you probably are not watching this video, or, well, if you want to try it but are not the biggest fan of simplistic yet fun power pop, then maybe you won't get as much out of this as I do, but still, it's an essential album of its time for its genre. It paved the way for a lot of power pop, indie rock, and later on also fun punk and punk pop bands, for better or worse. And these guys definitely were up to something. Fergal Sharkey's, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Vocals are quite distinct, a bit rough, and then also with a bit of a soulful vibrato, which really sets him and the entire band apart from a lot of other punk and new wave bands of the time that sometimes had the tendency to all sound a little bit alike. Also, the other early albums of the Undertones are worthwhile listening to, but I would say this definitely is the place where you should start with this little band from Northern Ireland. And if this brought you back to your adolescence years, and it's a good feeling that you get, maybe consider subscribing to my channel and check out some of my other album reviews and all the other nonsense I publish here. Most of all, thanks for watching. Support your local clubs and watering holes, and set your clocks for the next Murdock Music Minute. Cheers and bye-bye.
I'm just getting too old for this shit. Don't look so surprised. You've been telling lies. It's hard to wake up to your makeup, so please take off that disguise, or you'll turn into your cheap impression.